I'm Pat Maurakis. I'm president of the board of directors of the Langhorne House. The story of the Langhorne House really begins during the Civil War, when Army Lieutenant Chiswell Dabney Langhorne, better known by his nickname Shilly, was assigned, according to family stories, to the Danville arsenal. And while he was here, he became ill and had to spend a little time in one of the field hospitals. And while he was there, he met a pretty volunteer nurse named Nancy Witcher Keene, and they got married in December of 1864. When the war ended 4 months later, they had virtually nothing. To quote Shelley, "All I had at the end of the war was a wife, a ragged seat to my pants, and a barrel of whiskey." But flamboyant Shelley had confidence in himself and a willingness to work hard. He worked at a number of jobs: night clerk at a hotel, piano salesman, auctioneer, anything to support his growing family. It was as a tobacco auctioneer that he became well known in this area. That now famous auctioneer's chant originated with Shelley Langhorne. They say folks came to those auctions even if they weren't interested in buying tobacco. They came because they just wanted to hear him. Finally, in 1873, he was able to buy a piece of property, and in 1874, he had this house built. This house holds a very special place in history because it was the home of two very famous ladies. Of the 8 Langhorne children, 2 became world-renowned. Irene, the beautiful, charming Irene, the daughter born in 1873, began attracting attention for the time she was a teenager. She was the belle of the ball. Men, young and old, literally fell at her feet and begged her to marry them. However, she said no to the first 62 who proposed. Number 63 was Charles Dana Gibson, the well-known artist, and Irene and Dana were married in 1895. She became his model for the ideal American woman. She became the Gibson Girl. Women everywhere wanted to look like her, dress like her, be like her. Her younger sister Nancy, who was born in this house in 1879, also became an international figure. In 1906, she married Waldorf Astor and moved to England. In 1910, Waldorf was elected to the House of Commons. But when his father, who had become a Viscount, died in 1919, Waldorf had to leave the House of Commons and enter the House of Lords. Nancy, now Lady Astor, was chosen to run for his seat. After a whirlwind campaign of 2½ weeks, she was elected, and our Nancy became the first woman to serve in the British Parliament. She remained in Parliament until 1945. Both Irene and Nancy were in Danville in 1922. They were welcomed royally, of course. We have a photograph of them being given the keys to the city. They also visited this house, and Nancy stood on the porch upstairs to speak to the crowd that had gathered in the street. The exterior of this house looks pretty much as it did in 1922. It is painted the same color, and except for a few minor changes, this house is as it was when the two sisters last came here together. The interior, however, has been partially restored to the way it looked when they lived here in the 1870s. The parlor and the master bedroom have been painted their original colors, and they have been decorated and furnished in keeping with what we know of their mother's preferences. The Langhorne House is open to the public on Saturdays from 2 to 5 p.m. We also open on Garden Tour Day in April and for the Holiday Walking Tour in December. Visitors may also come by appointment. Just call me.